Hi everybody, welcome to Let's Talk Mental Health. I'm Elsie and here we simplify mental health. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're shooting outside and kudos to everyone who does outdoor content because let me admit it is not easy from the stairs to the glare to the uncertainty, but hopefully I will get through this one. So given that today's holiday, happy Madaraka Day to all Kenyans, it had me thinking about quite a number of things, and I have about four mental health topics that I'd like to touch on. My first topic today is the rat race, and the rat race is relatable to people who are in employment because what the rat race is about is how people go to work to get money, just enough money to pay their bills, pay their rent, pay their dues, and then have to go back to work again. And initially it may work, but over time it can be very frustrating because it's almost like you live for the next month. It's like you live for the next paycheck. In fact, I've heard people say that you live from paycheck to paycheck. And it might sound simple, it might sound complicated, it might be tiring, but one thing I'd like to challenge people is your life has to be more than the rat race, in the sense that you shouldn't just live for employment, or you shouldn't just live for your next paycheck or just to pay the rent. There needs to be life outside of that. And before we start complaining about how inflation is high or the cost of living is high, you have to remember that at times your mental health is your responsibility. So if we keep waiting for people to readjust the economy so that we take care of our mental health, time is going to lapse. And for people who are in the rat race or people who are dealing with the employment situation, it is necessary for you to take steps towards taking care of your mental health despite being in the rat race. And steps don't have to be big ambiguous steps, they can be simple steps, so that as much as you are in a frustrating job, because there are people who are in toxic workplaces, and it would be simpler for someone to leave a toxic workplaces, but for someone who's a parent, a provider, that might not be a very easy situation. Regardless, the righteous is a reality for many employees, maybe here in Kenya, maybe in parts of the world. But as much as the rat race is there, you and I have to take initiative towards making sure that our mental health is at its best, despite what is happening with the economy, what is happening with everything else. And the reason why I'm talking about the rat race is because sometimes people spend so many of their young years getting sucked into the rat race, paying check to living from paycheck to paycheck, having one responsibility, accomplishing one milestone, and then before you know it, time has lapsed, and they're dealing with severe mental health issues or challenges. And for some people, it actually shows up through terminal illness. I'm someone who likes to connect physical health and mental health because those two sometimes affect each other. Sometimes what is happening with your mental health affects your physical health, and sometimes what is happening with your physical health affects your mental health. The other thing with the rat race, it's almost as if people wait for one day to just live. For instance, today is a holiday. So on this type of day, I'm relaxed, I can go outside, but on the other type of days, I have to go to work and show up for my employer. And that has me wondering, is that how life is designed? Is that how it should be? Are we in the right place to question that? Because why should I just have one day in a month or two? For example, in Kenya, we're in that season where public holidays are kind of following up each other from one month to the next to the next. But then again, it will come to a season whereby there won't be any public holidays, maybe for a period of 2 to 3 months. And then what? Do we wait until we have another public holiday before we leave or take time to ourselves? Or do we intentionally decide to create time for ourselves so that life is not necessarily tied to a specific number of days of the week, or when an off day or a public holiday is there before we actually decide to leave? Because the danger of that routine, it's almost like you put yourself on hold on certain days, and then the day you have an off day or it's a public holiday, like, okay, now you have permission to leave. And that is detrimental to your mental health. It is not helpful. Every day should be a day in which you are living, you are present, you are grounded. And that is why, as a mental health professional, I champion for some of these mental health activities so that they help you stay grounded, so that they keep you in focus, so that you don't postpone living and decide that you're only going to live on an off day or you're only going to live on a public holiday, because your mental health affects your physical health and all these other aspects of health. Topic number 2 is the good days and the bad days. Now, I must admit, I love good days. I love days when I don't have to worry, where I'm not stressed out about anything, where everything is just flowing. Sadly, not every day is a good day, and not every day is a happy day. And the bad days or the negative days, they really get to me, because why are they here? And I don't know about you, but I have had some number of people who complain about the negative days. You don't have a problem when everything is going your way and you have so much joy and feeling happiness, but oof, when it's just a bad day, when it's a negative day, then it can get to you. But I'd like for you to understand that in life there are good days and there are bad days, and we don't get to pick and choose when to show up. And it's almost like at times the bad days can be so negative, you kind of want them to disappear. You kind of want them to just go away so that we can get to the good part, right? Kind of like a movie. When we see a sad part or a sad scene, we're like, we just want to rush through the sad scene, and then, yeah, let's get to the happy scene. And that's very normal, it's very human, it's very natural for us to want to get to the good part. Even the hormones and the moods, our moods, and especially our hormones during the good times, they are really at their peak. But now when it's like a sad time or a sad day, the moods and the hormones just kind of go down. So it makes sense, because your own body does not like a negative state. Your own body does not like sadness. Your own body does not like feeling depressed. However, having good and bad days is part of life. The emotions, there's a wheel. There are happy days, there's sadness, there's anger, there's bitterness, there's confusion, there's rage. It's important to understand that every one of those states is relevant to you living. So you don't get to postpone or pick and choose and say, I'm having a bad day, so I'm not really living. You still have to live. You still have to be present, even though it's a bad day, and acknowledge the bad day for what it is. And sometimes you can even investigate and find out what is causing this day to be a bad day. Is this something that I did? Is this something that I'm not doing? You know? And sometimes I like to challenge my clients. There's a circle. There's like the inner circle and there's like the outer circle. Now, the inner circle is what you can control or what is within your control. But the outer circle is what is beyond your control. Even if you pour water or you add salt, nothing you do will change what is on the outer circle. So you have to arrange and see what is it about your life that lies in the inner circle that is within your control. And then what is it about your life that is within the outer circle that is not within your control. And then just acknowledge that I can only control what is within here, and what is outside of me I can't control. And once you make peace with that, your bad days, they won't go away, but they'll be manageable. Because the idea is not to erase the bad days. The idea is for you to find ways to adapt and manage and see how well you can go on with your life, even if it's a bad day. So embrace good days and bad days. The third topic I'd like to touch on is the economy. Now, I don't know about you or which part of the world you're in or your financial situation, but right here in Kenya, the economy, well, the way it's going, a lot of people are lamenting, a lot of people are complaining. I am personally one of those people who is also being affected with the economy, especially with the cost of living. And I think for those in employment, the thing that aches people is how inflation is high, but the salary is the same. I'm going to say that again. The cost of living is rising high, but the salary is still the same. So now comes this predicament where someone has to budget their monthly income with an economy that is continuously rising. Because 3 years ago, it was at the GPD was at some point, and then now it's still rising. And as much as people complain and express their frustrations, the reality on the ground is that people still have to go to work, people still have to earn their money. I don't know about other companies. I know there are quite a few good companies in this country whereby when the cost of living is high, they acknowledge it and they see how to push on the employees. But majority of the Kenyans are not working for such good companies and are not working for such capable companies, because there are startups and there are companies where the budget cuts are just really high. So now, given such a state, it is hard sometimes to tell people about the importance of taking care of their mental health.